Okay, so really we're talking about a couple of things today. John, if you just... we're going to cover horse welfare and how the FEI steward is impacted. Obviously, a level playing field, how we help and advise, our various responsibilities. We'll go through some rule changes and how to use the Tack App. The FEI steward is responsible for everything relating to horse welfare. We're the ones on the ground from 6 in the morning until God knows what time in the evening. And this paragraph on social license, in particular the last paragraph, for the equestrian sport to have a social license to operate, welfare of the horse is of paramount importance. So therefore, as an FEI steward, we have to be very, very vigilant, and we have to monitor and watch and control. And that's done really by doing the monitoring the warm-up and the practice areas and absolutely every area really. We're looking for any sign of horse abuse, rough riding, over riding, hyperflexion, misuse of the aids, spurs, whips, etc. Discourteous behaviour, because that also is a negative impact on the sport. And in the stables, we're looking for horses have adequate water, feed, correctly rugged for the temperatures, everything that relates to horse welfare. Then the big question is how you decide what's correct and what's not correct. The difference between abuse and correction. And that's where there's a really good video which is produced by the German Federation. Unfortunately, I can't show you how to play it, but the URL is on the top of the screen. It's really, really worth looking at. And it shows a horse in training and what's correct and what's not correct. I'd really recommend everybody to, to look at it. And then to go with that, there's this really good sheet, which I gave out to everybody. It's observation of a horse and rider. And it covers all the indicators like way of riding, the paces, the gait, the back, mouth, head and neck posture, eyes, ears, sweating, all of that. And just indicators of what you need to look for. It talks about horse-friendly, where there's no action required. But horse-friendly, remember, also includes correction, because in the perfect world, our horses would all come out and work beautifully, but that we know that doesn't happen. There are always going to be issues, and where a horse just says, no, I'm not doing it. But the correction has to be correct. So watch that video and read that. They're well worth doing. Then it talks about conspicuous issues where you have to monitor a situation and then either intervene or hopefully the situation diffuses. And then there's non-horse friendly conduct where immediate action is required. For example, a very simple example is a horse dropping behind the vertical to avoid the contact. We all know horses that do this. But the question is it being caused by the rider? And if not, what is the rider doing about it? Are they trying to remedy it, or are they just allowing it to continue? What the picture looks like is very, very important. And more important for a steward, and this is Eventing Ireland stewards and coaches and other riders who are seeing something that's not right. While we don't want everybody to intervene or go and attack a rider or whatever, but talk to a steward, tell the steward you've seen rider X doing whatever, and let them deal with the situation then. But to do nothing is not acceptable. We just do not have that choice anymore. We can't turn the blind eye and pretend we haven't seen it. If you see something that's wrong, you must intervene. And that's not always easy, because it could be an Olympic rider who's, you don't have the confidence to go and tell them that they're riding badly. Or it could be your friend, and you also don't want to have to go and get in that awkward situation. But it's important to do so. How you intervene is equally as important. Obviously, you don't want to just go and have a confrontation with the rider. So it's important to do it quietly, discreetly. Have a discussion with the rider. Just say, you know, the picture doesn't look great. Why are you doing this? Is there maybe some other way? Or just make them understand the picture. Talk to a coach is often a very good way of doing it. And just explain that the show is not the training ground. That's to be done at home. I'll give you an example of a situation I had. An Olympic rider, she was riding her young horse. She wanted to make it to do a rein-back. The training was going beautifully until she asked for a rein-back. And the horse just said, nope, not doing it. So the argument started, and it got more and more of an argument. And eventually the horse was standing on his hind legs saying, nope, not doing this. So I saw her coach, and I could see he was coaching her. So I went to him and I said, I'm sorry to interrupt your session, but I can see she has a problem. I said, I can see what the problem is. I can see what she's trying to do, but it's not working, and it can't continue in a public environment. And he went, you know, it's got to learn, and it can't be allowed to get away with it. And I said, yes, I understand all of that, but not today, not in public, can't happen. So I said, can you have a word with her? And he said, there's no need, she's heard everything you've said. So anyway, I said, okay, and thank you, and I'm sorry to have interrupted. And I leave, and to be fair to her, she stops. So I have great respect for her because she understood what I had said, she understood the picture that she was showing, and she dealt with it. But I walked away thinking, oh, that's one enemy I've made. And I meet this rider on a very regular basis. And I thought, oh, this is going to be awkward. And she is so friendly and so nice to me since then. So I think it's that mutual respect of how you deal with it. You know, you don't go and attack them, you don't go and criticize them, but you point out that the problem is there. So that's just one situation. So the next is a level playing field. The rules need to be applied fairly and the same for all riders, whether it's Mickey Young or some kid having their first 1-star. The rules need to be fairly applied. Again, you can do that in a friendly and an educational way, not in a disciplinary way. But it's important that riders know when they're not doing something that's incorrect. And it's very confusing for riders when at one event everything is fine and they're allowed to do anything they like, and the next one they're being told, no, you can't do that, that's not right. And you get, but I've done that at this event, and I was here and I was there and it was okay. It's not okay, and it doesn't make it okay because somebody missed it at a previous one. So to me, it's really important that we apply the rules fairly and correctly. And that leads on to helping and assisting. No steward wants to see anybody eliminated or sanctioned. It is just not what we want. So for me, pre-tack checking is an essential requirement, because then you make sure that the problems are then not a problem, because they're dealt with before they become a problem. You advise the rider if you see something that's not correct, and you ask them to change it. Generally they do, but if they don't change it, if they persist in something that they now know is incorrect, you have no option but to tell the grand jury. You don't have the discretion to say, oh, well, it's a stupid rule anyway, so I don't agree with it. If they've been told, they know it's wrong, and they won't change, you must tell the grand jury. It's the grand jury's decision, not the stewards. Okay. At the end of the day, the athlete is the one totally responsible. So it's up to them to know the rules. There was a situation in Aachen last year. There was a pre-tack check before the show jumping, and there was a lot of things going on. You know, there was noseband checking, there was lots of things going on, and the steward there missed one French rider who had 2 martingale stoppers on each ring, and totally did not see it. So he went in, he jumped his show jumping around, member of the French team, important competition, and he was seen on the way out and he was eliminated. So it is, while it was really, that poor steward was so upset because they had missed this, but at the end of the day, it was the athlete's responsibility. Okay, the other responsibilities of an FEI steward, which actually are just limitless. We ensure that the competition areas and exercise areas are safe and suitable. Adequate water and washdown facilities. Stabling is correct. The proper air and everything else. The MCP boxes, which are for the doping vets, and treatment boxes are correct. That medical services are available when required. For example, if we're going to have a warm-up or a jumping session at the end of the evening, we need to make sure that the medics and the vets are still on duty and still there and not gone home because we forgot to tell them we were having a jumping session. The warm-up fences, very important, particularly in the cross-country, because a lot of the time the course designer or the TE is too busy and doing something else and they have forgotten to check on the warm-up fences. So you need to make sure they're properly pinned down, that there are ground lines, everything that needs to be done. The cooling zone, that it's correct, it's a big size, it's suitable, there's water there. It's safe for the competitors, for the spectators. Good communication with control, TD, starter is all very important. That there are screens at the warm-up. Again, sometimes that's forgotten, that the warm-up needs screens as well. Safety at the horse inspections. The list is limitless. It starts at maybe 5 or 6 in the morning and goes on until stables are closed in the evening. So, yeah, there are lots of things to do. Rule changes. Okay, as we all know, there was a complete rules revision done. So the rules, the 2026 rules are more or less set in stone for the next 4 years. But as a result, because of that, and not, it's too much of a problem to change rules. The FEI took the tack and equipment requirements, so tack and dress, into a separate document. So that can be changed as it's required. And they also then set up the tack advisory group so that any issues or any items of saddlery or tack or dress that appear during the year, they're sent to the tack advisory group, which consists of 8 people. I'm on it. There's 4 stewards, 2 riders, and a vet. And the head of the FEI eventing section is on it as well. And then we discuss any of these issues that come up and send it on to the expert tack group with our recommendations. And then if they need to change it, they change it in the Tack App and in this new eventing document. Notable changes for 2026. The bit diameter has been reduced from 14 mils to 10. It still remains, or not to 12. It still remains at 10 for ponies. The glove colour, now this might sound very silly and small and whatever. It used to be white, off-white, or the colour of the jacket, which if you're Irish or Dutch, they meant they ran around looking for green gloves or for orange gloves or whatever. It's now black, white, off-white, or the colour of the jacket. So that's a small rule, but it's an important one at the same time. Padded whips. Padded whips were to come in 2026, but now there's a derogation until 2027 because, funnily enough, we come from a racing country, so we understood what a padded whip was because the Turf Club and the Jockey Club in the UK have brought in padded whips. But nobody else outside of England and Ireland knew what a padded whip was. And the questions were, well, how much of it is padded? Is it that only the bottom is padded? So it just went on and on. So it was decided that had to be defined what a padded whip was. Mobile phones, this is an interesting one for this year. It's not in the eventing rules, but it's in the general regulations. And it says, no phones held to the ear or making calls while riding is allowed. Hands-free is allowed with one earpiece. Okay, so that's a big change because so many people go around with the mobile phones. And I know in Ireland we have brought in this a couple of years back where you're not meant to have a mobile phone on you riding. It's already in the rules that you can't have a mobile phone when you're doing your dressage test, your cross-country test, or you're jumping. That's already been there. But now in the warm-up, you cannot physically make a call. You know, when they stick the phone up under their hat or whatever, or even holding it here and talking, not allowed anymore. Okay, only a hands-free. So that, I think, will cause a bit of problems. The blood rules have changed a little bit insofar as the show jumping has come online with the show jumping rules. Okay, it's not a major change. It just means it's not an automatic elimination. It's now up to the vet and the grand jury to decide if a horse is fit to continue or not, or should be eliminated because it's been considered abuse. So that's one small change. Last year, unnatural foaming came in where people were feeding these sort of sticky substances to the horses where they were literally sticking their mouth together, so they couldn't open their mouth in the dressage test. So just be careful what you feed your horses. Anything that's very sugary or sweet or sticky will lead to it being tested. So just be aware of that. Now, there's very little of it in eventing. You often see somebody gives a red apple to them and suddenly there's these red bits sticking out and you think, oh my God, it's blood, but it's not, it's a bit of a red apple. So just be aware of the sugary ones, that's all. The noseband tightness came in last May and it was a very successful test, but just be again aware. The rules say it must pass through smoothly and easily. Okay, not this forcing, if it goes through at any force, it's acceptable. It's not. Because in the beginning we were a little bit, oh, if it goes through, it goes through, but not with force. It must pass through smoothly and easily. The other thing is the protective headgear. The standards have changed, so just be aware. There is a document in the FEI, this one just giving what's allowed and not allowed. That will be important for tagging, hat tagging. I know in the FEI we don't check hats, but here in Ireland and England we do, so that's an important one for people to look up. Okay, and that brings you on to how to read the rules. In the preamble of the eventing rules, it says, FEI jumping and dressage rules apply for the eventing, jumping and dressage tests, except where otherwise provided in these eventing rules. So the first protocol is the eventing rules. If your query is covered in that, then it's covered. If it's not, it's only then you go to the jumping or the dressage rules. Okay, an example of that is, which is one that gets confused very often, is in pony jumping. In the warm-up, ponies can only jump the height of the competition because they're jumping 125s, 130s, so they don't want them jumping 140 in the warm-up. So hence, that's why that pony rule is there. But in eventing ponies, it's already covered in eventing rules that they can jump 10 centimetres above the height of the course. And that applies for horses and ponies, but a lot of people rush straight away to the show jumping rules because this is what the pony rules say. But it's not eventing ponies, it's show jumping ponies. So there's little things like that. Then that brings us on to the Tack App. The Tack App is available either as an app on your phone or your tablet, or if not, you can get it under tack.fei.org. Okay, it's available on both. It's a great piece of equipment. There are just a couple of things to remember. Firstly, the sports rules override. So if you see something on that, but it's not correct as per the sports rules are the ones that override. Also, there can be some anomalies. There was one, I have it there, but anyway, if we haven't got it, there's one that shows a high port bit, and it's referring to the high port. That's all it's referring to. But it's showing all these rollers on the side of it, and it's saying permitted for eventing dressage. It's only the high port they're talking about, not all the rollers that are attached. It's a bad photograph, but it's important that whatever the subject is, that's what they're talking about, not the whole picture. Okay? And also, it's important, read the notes, because sometimes the notes have something that clarifies the question. And also read the notes for the jumping and the dressage, because quite often they have a clearer example. So always, it mightn't apply to the eventing, but just read the notes anyway. It's a good exercise. That's it for me. Thank you very much.